Earlier, I explained to you that an organization theorist is like a biologist, mapping the different species that exist in the world of business. Another parallel between biology and organization theory is the existence of life cycles, and I will now explain what the organizational life cycle looks like. Organizations, like human beings, are born, and that is, they are set up by real people at a certain point in time, and then they go through different stages that pretty much look like the stages of early life development, maturity, and then decline, as we know them in human beings. Initially, organizations are set up when a couple of entrepreneurs have an innovative idea, and then the organization looks a lot like what Mintzberg would call an innovative organization. In these organizations, the primary objective is to find a good marketable idea, to design the product, and to find both a customer base for that product and the required financial resources to fund the production processes. So the stakeholders that are very important in this stage are the financiers of the organization, shareholders, creditors, as well as the consumers. And at some point, the idea that the organization has really starts to kick off. People discover it and think that it is actually an interesting product to buy. At that point, what we see is that the firm moves from the birth, from the startup stage, to the stage of growth, and often that is rapid growth. That is the point where an innovative organization form no longer is efficient. Suddenly a lot of decisions need to be taken, production needs to be scaled up, and you just don't have the time anymore to negotiate all the different decisions among all the staff members, particularly if the number of staff members in the operational core is increasing as well. So what then happens is that the organization moves from an innovative organization to one in which direct supervision takes center stage. In that part of the life cycle, the organization suddenly needs to attend to what its employees want. It's likely that employees enter the business who do not own part of the business themselves, so you need to motivate them to do a good job. And the product starts to kick off. Financiers are generally less of interest in that stage, as money flows in from sales anyway. In the maturity stage, and that is the third stage of the life cycle, the firm has reached its peak growth. Just before the maturity stage, it entered a stage where formal procedures needed to be installed, when the firm no longer could benefit the enormous growth and needs to look at its cost level. Hence, a technostructure gets involved, which streamlines the purchasing of ingredients for the product, of components, which also streamlines production processes, streamlines the distribution of the products, the selling process, and whatnot. So that is when a firm starts to develop procedures, when it will start to look like a machine organization in which the standardization of work takes a central position. And at some point, this highly standardized machine that produces the organizations in the maturity stage of the organization no longer meets the needs of the consumers. So people who used to be quite okay with the products or were enthusiastic about these products at the start suddenly feel that it is no longer cutting edge anymore. And that is when the maturity stage goes into a stage of decline. In the maturity stage, pretty much any stakeholder is relevant to the organization. It is a big organization that can be challenged from a wide variety of stakeholders. So it's the employees' interests which are at stake. It's the social responsibility. So society suddenly has an opinion on these organizations, and they need to attend to all. When the firm no longer meets the requirements of the consumers and it enters a stage of decline, it suddenly has to reinvent itself. Either the firm disappears because it doesn't sell or doesn't offer the products that consumers need, or it figures out a way to refurbish its product line and to find again financiers who are willing to fund these operations. So what you see is that initially in the organizational life cycle, financiers and consumers are very important. In the growth stage, the consumers are abundant, so we don't attend to them as much, but employees become increasingly important. Then when growth starts to really kick off, money flows in. Financiers, investors, creditors are of lesser importance, but all the others, stakeholders, one after the other, become crucial to the survival of the firm, society, governments. And then when the firm has lost its edge with consumers and goes into decline, then again consumers and financiers become of core interest to the continued survival of the organization. And from that, the firm then develops into a new growth stage, matures again, etc. So in the sense, businesses have a potential life after they have died, and that is then in contrast, of course, to other species. Now you can also reverse this idea. If you know that employees, for example, are important in the growth stage of the firm, then you can also flip that argument and say, if you have a concern as an employers organization, for example, or an employees organization, a union, then which organizations are the most likely to be open to your demands? Well, that's then the growth organizations. If you are a government and you want to enhance the tax morale of companies, and you want to target them through an information campaign, and the mature organizations are most likely to be willing to listen rather than startup firms, which have finances and consumers on their mind. But if you're a consumer and you want to have the products designed to fit the ideas that you have about what a good product is, then you would best target startup organizations or organizations in decline. So from one perspective, you can say that a particular organization in a certain stage of the life cycle attends most to the needs of particular groups in the organization, to particular stakeholders. You can also, on the other hand, reverse that story and say, if you are a particular activist group, if you represent the ideas of a particular section in society or in the organization, then depending on the stage of the life cycle that the organization finds itself in, you are more likely or less likely to find the company willing to listen to your concerns.